Hello everyone and welcome back to Dark Marketing. And in this video I want to talk about SEO and backlinking. And we're also going to catch up on a number of topics at the end. I'll do a little roundtable because these videos aren't just for new audience members but for the continuing growing community of followers and people in my Discord group. So that being said, I'm very sorry about the delay in videos, okay? I've been, of course, very busy. The group has been growing, and so I've been putting a little more time into answering lots of questions for individuals and having an opportunity from everyone to learn from the shared conversation. And that's giving me a lot of, insight into the approaches and topics I should be talking about. But, unfortunately, just before Thanksgiving, I had a tooth extraction. And it was an old wisdom tooth that was root canaled years ago with a bad infection, but it led to some complications and almost a series of comical mishaps that really just laid me up for about a week and made it very difficult except to just sort of keep my basic, workload going and not really, in a position to be able to speak well and, have my head screwed on straight for these kind of topics. On the other hand, gave me a tremendous amount of time to catch up on my YouTube and research and blog reviewing of articles and content and what's going on in the news with SEO and how, people, at all different levels are dealing with things like the Google algorithm changes, okay? We've had the helpful content update, and Google is always doing certain updates. And so we're going to talk about that. And then, I spent a lot of time on forums. I've had to read a lot of documentation, and of course I was on Black Hat World. And, there's a constant theme that comes up with a lot of things, and especially when it comes to backlinking and a lot of the softwares that we cover on this channel. And they'll say, Money Robot is terrible. Money Robot damaged my rankings. Or GSA search engine damaged my rankings. And, those products don't work. And, you can go on Black Hat World and really see, where a lot of people are coming in. They're asking questions about, are these softwares still viable anymore? And most everybody's responding with their picks. But those are the things that they've learned to use successfully. Because the truth is, there is no bad product. There's only bad campaigns. And then there's the concept of, what we're doing here on this channel with these softwares. You hear the terms Black Hat. And of course, Black Hat World, right? That's where we go for a lot of information. Gray hat, white hat, those are just terms, okay? Terminologies. Now, if I want to be technical about Black Hat or doing something that, is less ethical and, of course, illegal, like doing spam email. Like, email is a dangerous game, and I don't get involved in it, even though I'm sure I could work the minutia. I used to do bulk emailings, like 10 years ago. That was a mainstay of some of my marketing practices. But these days, that's just not really, in my opinion, the most effective road. If you're going to do that, you're going to do targeted emailings, and that's another conversation and not something that I do or I'll be really talking about on this channel. But everything that we do is actually targeted, and that what we have to understand is, Google is a monopoly, and these search engines, they are controlling the domain in which people enter the internet in order to get from point A to point B. Okay? But not all of the internet is dependent on Google. I came across some very interesting, there's a really good video on Reddit threatening to block itself from Google search results because Reddit is more valuable to Google than Google is to Reddit. And Google has so many users and success rate, and it doesn't need anybody, and it put Google on notice. And if you spend time like me, you should be spending time, no matter, which one of these softwares you're using, trying to learn about the marketplaces, because there's value in everything. And so, Google is always telling us what's good for Google. Not what's really best for us. They're saying, look, if you play the game our way, and as it comes to backlinks, Google says you will be penalized for purchasing backlinks, right? But yet people go out and they buy and sell backlinks. And I want to discuss, like, one of the videos I came across was from She Knows SEO. And this is a girl, I saw her interview. She's got some successful blog sites, does a travel blog. I saw her original interview on niche pursuits. Got some really valuable information and insights from her because I had a client that literally fit her identical model. Different genre, but in terms of the scope and structure was the same. And that advice, combined with the services that I provided in a 6-month period, drove that blog site's ad revenue up 2.5 times. It was doing roughly $4,000 a month and drove it up to $10,000 a month. So it was very impressive. And I follow her a lot. And recently she just posted a video about that she had purchased backlinks and paid $6,300. So we're going to also talk about that. So now, and at the end, we'll do a little round table where I'm going to talk about a range of topics that relate to these softwares that we cover and discuss here. Okay, now if you're following this channel or you're like me, you're also following a lot of other channels that you find that the content's very useful. And I certainly have suggested some here, and I'm going to suggest some more today. Of course, SEO. Google is not our friend. They are our adversary. They are something to be conquered, okay? That we rule wherever we go inside their domain, okay? Because Google and other search engines, as I said, they act generally as the portal that gets people from point A to point B. But they're not in the ethics business. They're in the making money business, okay? They're out to sell ads, and, when they act like, yeah, we're trying to come out with this Google helpful content update, like, oh, what Google is trying to do, whatever it's doing is trying to maximize its revenues. And how does it maximize that revenue? Well, by trying to discern the latest and greatest and newest. Because, hey guys, the internet is like the news. Yesterday's news is old, today's news is news. And that's what it is. And most of us who are working in these fields, we're working on tomorrow's news. We're already testing tomorrow's news. We're working on the cutting edge. So that being said, if you're watching Google's After Hours, and you should be to listen to it, listen beyond. Listen to the questions that people bring to them. And you'll notice how they try to steer them in a certain direction. That direction is what's optimal for Google. And oftentimes, that even things Google may suggest that is not going to go well for you, even though it may not lead to a penalty or some other such thing, the real reality is they're trying to steer you away from a weakness in their algorithm. And I'll give you a very simple example, which is why they no longer or rarely take the title from your actual title description tags and use that as the display title. And here's why. Because your title tag is the starting point for everything. It is when Google hits your page, the very first piece of information it's going to read is your title. And that title and the keywords that are in there begin the primer, the starting point, the seed that grows down through the document as it's reading. Okay, so think of it like this. And people often ask me about tiers. Well, think about the tiering structure of how a crawler is going to crawl a web page. It's going to start with the title. It's going to then go to the description. And that's why on all of my product pages or basic content pages that are not blogs, I use three phrases, 3 keyword phrases that are the primer for the starting content. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole SEO scenario, but just wanted to exemplify this is a weakness because many people began to see others doing this sort of a approach where you're just keyword stuffing 3 phrases separated by a breaker bar, right? But no matter what, it was because of the way Google's starting point works, it was almost impossible for them to, negate sites based on their title. It just wasn't going to make sense. Now, as you get into the progression, it reads the document, looking for the content, keywords, heading tags, things that relate to those phrases. And then there is the other end, which is the backlinking. It's all the way back there it starts, and we build that up from the bottom. But it gradually is going to come into the top-down read with a down-up read, external. And when those two things connect on Google, that's when the magic happens. But what's important to understand is that Google, as I said, they're not in the ethics business, and all of these algorithm changes, that they're less based on often necessarily making it better, because sometimes in the road to make things better, I get very annoyed with Google sometimes when I see these experimental changes coming up, and they're just not, there are sometimes when something's not broken, you don't need to fix it. Okay? And that's what often happens. But think of it like this. Change your whole perception about Google and think about Google as a casino. And that all Google's really trying to do is shuffle the deck. Because the reality is there's always going to be certain sites that are going to rank sufficiently, that they're going to be that overwhelmingly in the top results. And these sites get millions of users, like big magazine sites, New York Times, and those type of platforms. There are certain size goals that when a site achieves a certain prominence, it is always going to dominate its own search results. Like Apple. Apple buys its own name. It's crazy. If you search for an apple, you don't get an apple from a fruit tree. You get apple, because that is the real search intention that's going on. And Apple is so overwhelmingly backlinked and has articles and blogs and reviews that it's almost impossible. It's not going to come up number one. So why would they buy ads, right? But still they do, because they want to make sure no matter what. The truth is, no matter what, they're always going to come up number one. So when you look at the guy from the most extreme, and you start to look at, when you go down the tier to sites that are obviously not going to be as big as, say, Apple, but, are still in the millions, hundreds of thousands of visitors, as you go in this descending order, you start to see certain metrics get peeled away in your analysis. But the most discerning factor is the newest and the latest, okay? And that your sites stay updated, because, guys, your website, many of my clients, they have very static pages. I have clients that are in the high technology, semiconductor industry. They have to be extremely specific about what they say in their content. There's no editing the page. Now, I may give them advice on rewording some content or trying to improve some things or make suggestions, but by and large, that content must remain stable because it's scientifically specific. So, that being said, there are other ways to manipulate things without interfering with your content to tap into that updating factor. And that is by just simply modifying titles and descriptions from time to time. Really simple process. The other thing is interlinking. Some nice anchor text that links certain keywords with specificity, not blindly, but if you're linking a certain keyword phrase here to go to a certain page, it should always go to that page, because that whole tiering anchor text tiering structure that starts with the basic understanding of your titles and description and what your content's about, and as it reads the document, that interlinking, that's your first backlinking, but we call it internal linking, and that has a lot of value. And those are things that you could do like soft modifications from time to time to update your content, because you want Google to see that you're in that. You're changing, you're updating, you're always new. Your site is active, okay? Those are the things Google is really seeing. Google's not a human being. It's like an animal that has a different set of senses and sees colors differently, or can see in the dark. It doesn't see like you and I see. It doesn't read the way you and I read. It's looking for relationships. So, Google and all of these things, they're just shuffling the deck because everything reaches an apex, and then other people got to get a chance to get into to get a little shake up at the top of the search results. Because really, when you're talking about the algorithm, that's all that really matters. But ultimately, you get these big algorithm changes, and then there's a whole series of small changes, and they're going on every day. And I can see it just in when I sit down with my tablet or on a PC, and I just do some random searches while I'm testing out, looking at for a particular site or other, and I know what I expect to see. Like especially with my clients, I know their phrases, and I know what I expect to see, and I can see the small incremental changes that are constantly happening. And that's like the game of blackjack. When it reaches the end of the 6 or 8 decks that they're using to play the table, it's time to gather up the cards and shuffle the deck again. And those 6 or 8 decks, those are the top page results, because that's where all the real spending is. It's all going to happen in the first 1 to 3 pages, and that's where they're trying to make their ads stick in. Of course, now they've got it's whether you click through pages or you scroll the pages down, because now they've changed the mechanic. They're still constantly putting those ad-driven results in there, okay? So it's important to understand. Don't get too hung up on everything that Google tells you. Like, there are things, like if you're a blog, yes, there's some guys that are going to get shaken up, but that's because what's working today may not work tomorrow, and there are other scoring algorithms that go in. Because, look, we can only do from our web page, article, content, blog, whatever, from top to bottom, okay? So that's what we're going to do all of our, starting understanding, laying the groundwork for what we want to come up in, letting Google know what this document is about, and then do other people understand it, what we're going to do on the outside. Because the real factor that's going to drive people to your website or drive the results back up, is backlinking. And the reason this is so important is because Google is going to detect those backlinks. Even though it's not going to show them in their search results, they can see the backlinks. If you use Ahrefs or SEMrush, what you see in there, on average, you're only seeing 35, maybe 40% of certain results that you're looking at of total of the web. It doesn't see everything, but I can assure you, Google's picture is better than Ahrefs, because they are the largest crawler, and they also glean data from far deeper. A lot of that data is being transmitted upwards. And how does Google discern if the search intent and the content? It's also looking at those backlinks. And backlinks, look, they're not a static thing either. So, now once we understand that Google is just kind of shuffling the deck, and not to get overly concerned about every single thing that it's telling you to make a change, but rather to step back and look at the other algorithmic things that go on outside your website. Because ultimately, those sites that get strong activity, and Google is seeing lots of backlinks that are relevant, related, anchor text, keyword signals being beamed upward from down below, because as I've often said, it's what lies deep beneath the water that really influences what's coming up to the surface when you do a search on Google. And we all know that backlinking is a critical element. Now, that being said, an interesting video that was posted by She Knows SEO, and I really like this girl. Let me get a clip of this up here for you so you can check her out, and I encourage you to watch the video about her results of spending $6,300 on backlinking. So let's talk about that, and then how those things start to connect and really affect Google's metrics. Because there's a delay with backlinking, and what we're doing today is most likely going to be affecting, not right now, but tomorrow, next month, and really, about a 3-month. Your work should be being aimed for the next 3 months ahead of you. You're always producing, even though you may be posting today, what's really going to, in terms of backlinking and driving, that to go up in search results, is going to be more derived from outside your site than inside your site. Because there's only, when you're sitting at the casino table, depending on the game you're playing, there's only so many cards in your hand. And if you're playing poker, there's only so many cards on the table that you get to draw from. Understand? So think like a poker player. So you want the things that are going to influence that you get better cards dealt to you when you're playing on the table of Google's top 10 search results. Look, guys, Google is known for having over 200 known metrics. Those are the known ones. What about the unknown? So what you really need to learn to do in your analysis is look at the things that are working, that work for you, and how to connect those dots. As I've also often shown in previous videos, when you analyze, using SEMrush or Ahrefs like I use, you learn to discern what you're seeing. You start to look past just the flat data up and down. What are the different type of backlinks? What are their ratings? How do they compare to other sites that obviously have or do a better presence? Because you get a lot of really great statistics of tracking out of these sources. But, understanding that, how powerful backlinks play a role into things, I strongly suggest you watch this video from She Knows SEO and her experience, and it was $6,500 that she spent and did two types of backlinking. One was with guestbook post and the other was using Linkify, I think, and they actually told her they're going to do a few things you might need to be comfortable with. Oh, really? Like, what's that? Black hat, right? Because at the end of the day, look, all of these guys, and I've seen them all, even in, I watch Matt Diggity, right? Everybody knows Matt Diggity if you're watching SEO videos. And they also provide automation. I've looked on their website. I've seen how he talks about it. He's subtle. He doesn't say, hey, I'm using GSA Search Engine Ranker or Money Robot or any of those tools ever. But he is. There's no doubt in my mind. And when you start to look and analyze at things, you start to get to know the types of content that was created. And understand something. Like, I also spent a lot of time on Black Hat World in recent weeks. And, I see this constant barrage of people saying, well, this GSA did this to my website and Money Robot did that. Hey, guys, I got DR value links 69 and 70 out of Money Robot posts that I made. So please, do not tell me that you can't get value out of these products. Now, were those posts at that value when I originally made them? No, but they grew over time. And the important thing to understand is the quality of your post. Because, look, if you're just, creating a backlinking campaign with one of these softwares and saying, oh, you want to use a wizard, throw your keywords in, let it generate an article, let it do the spinning, add a few things, images, and then hit the run with your links. Sorry. No. That is never going to work because those things start to become clearly discernible in their patterns when you do it simplistically. So you've got to put quality work into your backlinking campaigns. Now, the interesting thing that I took away from listening to this girl's video about the $6,500 she spent, and at first she said, it was a lot of money. She wasn't happy with the results. But ultimately, interesting thing that I heard, that over time, she got results on those backlinks that she paid for. It took her, I think, 3 to 6 months before she started to see it. And in the one case, she was paying for some, they're providing some high DR value backlinks. But the real thing is that I said, well, yeah, she did get some value because that mechanic will work. She had to spend $6,500. And of course, she didn't get a lot of links either, but she did get some very high value links that in terms of DR. And, not everyone's type of blog, like if you're doing travel's kind of open-ended. It's a popular topic. It's on a lot of blog sites. There's a lot of blog sites just about it. It's a topic on a lot of magazine type sites. So if you get some links on some really high trafficked, high ranking magazine site that is not about travel but includes travel topics, obviously those type of things are going to be a home run, but they're not for the average person. And when I looked at the results that she posted, I thought to myself, geez, $6,500? Could have got about 10 times that for $6,500 out of me over time. Because the reality is, a lot of that stuff, it's not going to last forever. Okay? It's going to have a time limit. Those links are going to lose value. And that's because wherever that backlink came from, over time, the website may maintain ranking, but that actual page and backlink will lose its ranking with age, because those things, they start to become old. And so when we use the products that I outline in this video, one thing we really want to understand is you need to make some really high quality content. The time that you put into doing that, the posts that I make for my clients are as quality as if they could have been, a blog on their website, and with everything being technically correct, the right types of anchor text, and my also an understanding into what is the right type of topic that's going to connect. Okay, because sometimes they're going to be right on the money, and sometimes they're not. There's if you look at, a lot of people talk about Harrow, that website, which people get links and content from journalists to publishers, and it's kind of a process to get through it, but people go through it to get the backlinks. Well, what we're doing is basically the same thing, but we're doing it ourselves, and we're playing on our own metric for time, because everything is going to get old and lose value. And you could, for $6,500 for the value she got out of that, I could have probably got 10 times the result for, the course of a year, depending on, what was required. And that's because, look, when you do backlinking, the real reality is you're going to get a whole range of backlinks of different DR values. What really is going to matter to Google the most is that it sees it coming from a range rather than just some high ones. It's got to be kind of a flag too. Hey, how does this person only get some really high links, and yet they don't really get links in the mid-range or at low ranges, or from a range of other sites that might be backlinking to them that would just make sense, or even getting guest book posts, because it's not it's not natural. And those links over time that she paid $6,500, I predict will lose their value regardless of whatever DR ranking they have. Okay, because there's basically kind of two scores that go behind backlinking: your all-time backlinks and your current backlinks for the month. And those current backlinks for the month, what's being registered, that's coming up, that is the most important influencer of your actual metrics for search results as it carries upwards. The stuff that's from the past will still add value, especially if the high value links and sources are good, but it's going to really thin down over time. And I've done some experiments. I had a client that has a range of sites, and one of the sites we stopped doing all backlinking, and it just went flat, completely flat. I was like, ooh, look at that. And all it needed was, and the leads are very high value leads. It only generates a small amount of leads, maybe only one real viable good lead per week, but that's all they need. And it's a very tight market, small, but it's a high value product, and a very expensive and high tech. So as an experiment, we decided to not backlink this one product line, and nothing, haven't had a lead. So now of course, it just restarted the process, and it will start to come right back again. Okay, now that's not really a huge thing, but the same principle applies on the bigger product line sites. And if you're a shopping site, same thing. You got a lot of products. You're gonna need a higher level of backlinking, and you need it to be maintained. You want it to appear that people are talking about your stuff all the time, and that you've built up a good level of backlinks over time, but you're constantly keeping that activity going in the short term. That means month to month. That is really the critical factor here. And so when I see these people going out and fishing and spending money and they're getting results, they're never coming back and telling us, oh yeah, but it didn't really, I got some good results for a while, but it didn't really last that long, 2-3 months, and then I was right back where I started. Understand? And that's because They may have had some high value and had influenced you, but the result ultimately became more short term. Because, hey, it may appear to Google like, yeah, you got featured on this big site, but you don't have all the other supporting infrastructure. For those links that someone pays big bucks for, they really need to have another strategy to make sure that those big bucks links maintain value over time. And of course, with a good external automation backlinking strategy, you can also ensure that the backlinks that you have, because we also want to, backlink our backlinks in other approaches, and we often do that with GSA's search engine indexer, because that's how its process works. But you can see that in one of my other videos. So I use a whole tiering of processes, but what I want you to understand is that to look and glean what other people are talking about as it relates to SEO and to backlinking, and whether these software products are actually viable solutions. Because I find that the people who say, oh, this product did damage to me, wasn't the product, but their lack of understanding. Yes, if you think you're going to fly a 747 and you've only maybe flown a little Cessna plane once or twice, you're not going to be, you're going to crash and burn when you get up. You might actually get that plane off the runway and up into the air briefly by paying for some backlinks, but ultimately you're going to crash and burn. And same thing with your backlinking strategies. You need to learn to create high quality backlinking strategies, and this is why I also recommend that you don't lock yourself into one product. That's why it's good to really have more than one, and you're not going to run them all the time. Money Robot's one you can run very aggressively, and be less concerned with your indexing and letting those links bubble up naturally, and then deciding where you want to sometimes do some controlled indexing on certain types of posts. So, understanding that whole process that's happening around you, crawling and indexing, and how you can influence that aspect. But the biggest way we influence it is by keeping our content updated, adding new content to our websites, which if we don't have new fixed content and products, then we need to be adding blogs. Those blogs become the catalyst for our month-to-month activity and provide a great resource for our backlinking, because we want to backlink to our blogs, which also have linking into our actual site and its related products. Now look, guys, there are how many websites on the internet and platforms? Trillion? Is it that many? All these websites, all these content, how many even more words, search phrases and topics and things that provide, other multiples of those factors, in the sense that 999,000.99% of us are never going to be getting backlinks on all of these high-level resources, unless, of course, I become Matt Diggity or some guy with a gigantic, presence, website, and I'm considered one of the top guys in my field, and everybody needs it, and so I wind up on other large platforms as a result that are not necessarily related to my topic. So most of us, we're not going to get on the New York Times or one of these gigantic websites, but we don't need to, because the reality is almost no one is. The vast amount of people that are out there doing business are never going to get on any of these sites, and it would be impossible for these sites to even get any kind of viable percentage of all the things that are out there. So for the rest of us, what does that mean? Does that mean if I can't get on New York Times or pay for some really high value link, I can't get posted or get good search results? No, sorry. That's not how the mechanic works. And this is where you need to shed those preconceptions about black hat and this and that, because look, in my mind, it's not black hat if I'm creating quality content. And let's just say, for example, I make a really good campaign with just a software like Money Robot, and I make roughly 10,000 posts. Those 10,000 posts are never all going to get indexed. And that's exactly not necessarily what I want, because both exactly and not necessarily. And that's because we don't want 10,000 backlinks from one campaign getting indexed just like that. We want a certain amount of randomness in there. That's why I'm running a lot of campaigns. So what I tend to do is less indexing, more running, and let things index naturally, and then just tap on them with some indexing processes. Sometimes I'll use Scrapebox, sometimes I'll use GSA search engine indexer, and just push on certain things that are certain topics that I want to see. Am I not getting enough, seeing enough backlinks appear? So sometimes they need a little bit of a push. But learning to analyze, your backlinks and the backlinks of your competitors. Because look, not only there are blog posts that you can backlink, but then there's guest book posting. Like in my case, I'm creating hundreds of thousands of posts via campaigns. And I have also a blog site that has multi-topics. This allows me to create entire niche categories of content that is posted for backlinking purposes. However, those posts all provide a guest book posting system at the bottom of them. So now I can take those links and for something that I posted and provide some good guest posting backlinks on some of those articles that I posted in previous campaigns that will benefit someone else under the same genre topic, or multiple people in fact. So look, it's important to understand that getting a DR value, that's good in the measurement, but it's not the whole story, and it's not the leading factor. What's really the more important factor is that you have a range of different values, and they don't have to be high DR values, that come from content that is relevant and that has relevant anchor text. And like I've used this example before, if you're writing an article on a certain topic, and it might be, hey, maybe you do home DIY, do it yourself auto repair blog or something along those lines, or home repair. Okay? When you're doing that type of thing, basically what happens is that you may write a blog article, and this is how Harrow and some of these other link building sites actually work, where they're trying to do their best to kind of fit you into something that's related. Because why would they do that? Why would they tell the girl from She Knows SEO that they're going to make some changes that you got to feel comfortable with? Because they understand that they need to make a connection, a ranking connection, for it to bring value to you from that backlink. That is critical. DR value is not enough. They need to establish something related. So I'm doing an article. I have a do-it-yourself home repair or automotive, and I'm doing an article on a specific topic, and I realize, one of the things here, there's sometimes an issue with this sort of thing, and understanding how to deal with that little thing, is a sort of an article unto itself, so they don't want to go off track of the main blog article. So what they will do is they will link to someone else's article, or of course their own article is even better if they have one, that talks more in depth about that. And in fact, like with some of my clients with blog sites, I had one with the bakery site, and in the analysis of looking at other baking oriented blog sites, they all had a similar approach in that, hey, I'm talking about how to bake something, but in the process of making this, there's a whole issue with how the dough rises, or there's a science to that. And I don't want to really talk about that here because that's a blog unto itself. So let me link to this guy's article over there, okay? And then getting the backlink that way. And that's how a lot of, ultimately, the ultimate objective of a backlinking service to work. So some backlinking services have these sort of already have these niche, massive quantities of blog posts that they've done, just like I do for backlinking. So, like if I focus a specific campaign around a topic, it may be one page or a group of pages, there's a certain range of keyword phrases in there, and they're related. And so I might say, hey, this is a good match to guest post off of, where I can go and pull that up, pull those addresses out, and go and feed that through Scrapebox and make guest posts, or even integrate it into my GSA and guest post those sites. Understand? And those some of them are actually ranking really great. Like I got one right now, a lot of them, they're all ranking 69, 70 DR values, and I'm getting a good range below. That is the real world. Nobody's just on top in DR backlinks, and nobody's just on the bottom. You gotta simulate the metrics of your ecosystem. And that's why it's also important to incorporate like social media. If you're doing a blog site, obviously you want to be, you want to have a couple social media platforms that you're posting out your articles and things so that it makes sense when the other activity of, blogging and things that are happening from the backlinks that you're creating through automation. But I hear it in all of these guys in their videos. Another guy I've been following, Jesse Cunningham, a recent guy. I saw him interviewed. I came across his videos, and then he was recently interviewed on Niche Pursuits. So I said, let me go and follow him and watch a couple of his videos, and he has some good backlinking videos. And when you listen to these other type of backlinking approaches that have nothing to do with these softwares, listen for what is working. Discern what is working in those approaches. It's not always what they think. They're simply saying, well, because I got this high DR value. They're not taking into account time, that it's going to have a limited time span. And then that DR value is going to go on your backlist of backlinks that are the old backlinks. And you could see that like when we analyze Ahrefs. Let me just put a clip here. And what you understand when you look at these things is that it's gleaning everything through the eyes of time. And so you have to really maintain a flow when you're doing backlinking and a diversity of things, so everything appears normal. But look, I do it for my clients all the time. When I see a certain topic that's falling, I go right in there and realize, okay, here's what I need to do. I make those changes. Pages need a few updates, just sometimes little title manipulation, little change in the description. They've got some new blog in the content. That blog is linking to those sources. So I'm going to cover the topic from top to bottom with the links from those sources, their blog article. It's all going to go into my backlinking process to create that tier up, reading from the outside up to your website. So it's a down up process, really, not a up down. Okay, the up going down starts on your web page, starting with the title tags like I outlined. And I can go and create a whole series of similar topics, because they don't have to be necessarily exacting, but I might say reference, a trend about something, and then that's what the actual blog post topic is going to be, but it's going to have all the keywords and anchor text that relate to the main topic of what I'm backlinking, and make it look like, hey, this is an important reference over here. If you're really interested in more about that, this is where you want to go. Understand? And those are the type of metrics. That's the way Google and search engines and all of this crawling and indexing, what the ultimate objective is to try to string those pieces together, to thread those needles. And there are many needles to be threaded in the process. Now, another thing that actually goes into Google's metrics of analysis, and this pertains to people with new websites. It wants to know, is there anybody else going to your site outside of Google? And that's why I like having YouTube and social media is important, and starting a little backlinking. You're not going to get backlinking day one, but you could start the process as soon as 3 months with a new website. And you want to go slow. Let things appear to evolve naturally. You can't suddenly have 100,000 links overnight. It's not going to happen. You're going to get sandboxed. But as you start to grow, but Google is also, remember, look, Google says they don't penalize you if you don't use Google Analytics, but Google is also going to know better how to score you to your advantage if you're on their analytics. So take my advice. If you're not using Google Analytics, use it, because Google is going to be able to see through your analytics tracking that you are allowing them to do that you get some traffic. Like, look, if I run just a money robot campaign just to sort of backlink my videos on my YouTube channel, I will get visitors from those posts, and albeit they are small, but I may get like just very initially. I don't look at the long-term results, just like sort of overnight from a campaign, I might get a dozen visitors. Now, you've got some campaigns running. Google's going to see that you are getting those visitors. That's one aspect, and that's small. Another thing, if you're a startup, this is why I tell you, look at everything that I cover on this channel holistically, because GSA website contact for many new businesses and services that are out there is a fantastic way to generate brand exposure and new traffic when your site has no search engine visibility whatsoever, okay? And you've got Google Analytics, and Google is going to see that people are coming to your website. So just for example, one of the sites that I've been trying to help and give them some guidance, Autoblogging Pro, they're developed blogs, followed all of my guidance, wrote a lot of blogs. We're deep into the backlinking process now, and I'm running campaigns, not high numbers, slow and steady. I want to keep them on a 24/7, and so that Google is seeing a steady flow of traffic to that site. And by seeing that there are external traffic sources, it's going to give it a boost of ranking. Understand? So these factors are important, and you will hear these ranking factors that are not necessarily something that Google explicitly tells you by listening to other people's videos. Many people pick up on certain metrics because they become key in their niche, and they identify it. And you listen to a few. If you in 3 months you're listening to videos about backlinking, SEO, basic prep. Things that are going on with how people are analyzing these changes and how it impacts them. It's all very interesting stuff, because you want to look at it as it pertains to you, and never be concerned that, this is the new thing, everything's going to get changed, it's going to wipe out everything, and you're going to be out of business. That isn't happening. It's never happening. It's never going to be happening, because Google's model is dependent on websites. It actually needs SEO guys to help influence, make that other end of the connection. Because without SEO guys trying to really optimize that content and get things better, they can't get the best results in their crawling without that, okay? Which is why they also give direction. But that direction is that they want you to do is best for them, best for their advertising system, and is full of exploits for you to capitalize on, okay? Because Google's out to make money. They're out to make money. We need to be out to make money, and we need to be able to influence them in a way that puts power back in our hands. I'm not Reddit, but I have sufficient quantities of content out there that I can influence anyone. In fact, I'm actually thinking about reaching out to that girl from She Knows SEO and seeing if I can do some campaign work for her on one of her sites and demonstrate the results compared to her $6,500 that she paid. Because, look, guys, learning this process is difficult, but this is why professional level services matter. If you're really in the business of being in business and shopping, just mastering your SEO is a challenge. This is why, like on my site, when I get clients, I don't just say, okay, I actually had to change the format on my site where I don't want anyone coming in and just making a purchase. They must fill out a form first. I have to do an audit. We do a review. We check, are they even viable? Because, the vast majority of people that contact me, they're not ready for backlinking. They don't have sufficient SEO markup. And so I provide that basic training to help them get started and learn how to capitalize on it without, they don't need to be an SEO expert. They just need to follow some basic guidelines and approaches that I lay out. I make it easy for them, tools like ChatGPT, some keyword tools, and make it fun and interesting. Because if you've got a website, your shopping site, whatever, and you're selling, you've got to be in love with doing little SEO things. And, you go on the internet and you hear this guy over here saying that, and that one's over there, and you start to panic. You think, this guy's saying this. Look, everyone is different. And, many people are often confused. My content's better than his. According to Google's metric, I should be better, because you know what? But I hear a lot of that going on too. And why is this guy's crap stuff up? Because they're shuffling the deck. And when people's crap stuff goes to the top, the other guys who lost, they start thinking about, I'm going to buy keyword ads. I got to balance. I got to, because Google wants you to buy chips at their casino. They don't want you coming in with your own money and walking out with their money, okay? And that's kind of like the casino principle again. I really got to do a video just about that. I wrote a blog on it on my website, and I have one on the SEO Depot. But you really need to think like that they are running a casino. And that is what's going on. And then leave your black hat ethicalness at the door, because in this approach, we're not doing black hat spam. We're trying to, we're going to be creating a high volume of backlinks, but we're going to be nursing them out. None of my clients, many of my clients are producing hundreds of thousands, more than 100,000 backlinks a month. That's not what's showing up. There may be, if I got them in a nice flow where they're getting 17,000, it all depends. It really depends on their marketplace and what's going on, how much traffic, what the competitors have, and what I need to do to match that. And, changing it up. It's not always going to be the same, that with your backlinking campaigns. You want to kind of mix them up. Always, people rerun a lot of the same old material because they think, well, I'm using spin tax. No. Okay, really that spin tax that we use in this process, that's so that we make sure that we've got enough variation for whatever actually gets indexed, picked up, and discerned by Google and other search engines to give us credit with our ranking. What's really going to happen in there is what the real value that they get out of that article, that no matter how that spin tax lands, that article is readable. The content is solid. I've got videos, I've got pictures, I've got the right amount of links and length to those posts to make them appear as they should be. And there's other things, you really can evolve your posts that you create beyond what the basic outlines that most of these softwares describe, because there's all sorts of things that you can do. And understanding, spin tax, look, even when you use Money Robot, you can put a range of pictures that it will rotate through in the top of your post, and videos in the bottom of your post, or vice versa, any way you want. But you could do it in the middle if you wanted to. You can write your own spin tax and rotate, put the image URLs and everything and embed it right in the middle of an article, so that the blog is like many other blogs where you've got a picture at the top, content, another image, content, another image, content, then maybe a video at the bottom and a closing statement. You can take these things to a whole other level than the basics of the software. And that's what you really start to learn. That, of course, these things, they take a lot more time. And people are always looking for the magic bullet. I want to do it fast. And when they do it fast, that's when they go, oh, Money Robot ruined my stuff. Oh, GSA search engine ranker tanked me. Oh, Ranker X. Those things, SEO autopilot, they don't work. It put me out of business. No. You put yourself out of business because you tried to post crap and got penalized for it. When you post high quality stuff, I don't care how low the DR value is, you're going to get value because there's going to be another value that gets carried out of that. And that's what it discerns as the page rank for certain words and why that got detected and picked up. Understand? So what's the really big takeaway you need to get here? You need to look beyond things, because one thing you will hear repetitively if you're following some of these YouTube channels that are about SEO, like Niche Pursuits and some of the interviews, and some of them, they're just doing analysis talking about the recent Google algorithm changes, helpful content update, etc., etc. And of course, there's a lot of frustration out there and everybody attempting to overanalyze things, because why is it that somebody who's got a really great site and traffic, and they seem to really have the better match to what Google's saying, this is the better approach, and yet, you don't really know, because you could compare yourself to, what they say then, well, you got to compare yourself to another site to figure it out. And the truth is, sometimes you're a match, sometimes you're not, and you're like, gee, it doesn't make sense. No. Despite whatever Google's saying, I should not have taken a hit. So why am I taking a hit? Has nothing to do with helpful content. It's all about the casino and making money. You understand? You are winning too much. And so now they want to take away what you think is your established revenue, and you want it back. And what's the remedy? Buy keyword ads. Understand? They are changing it. It's like when you're at the casino, you're on a roll, you're winning. You're rolling those dice, put it all on. You keep raising the bets and then boom, snake eyes, right? And the house takes everything. Not only what you won, but what you came in with. And that happens when you start paying them. And that is the mechanic that all of these guys that I see on these channels talking fail to seem to recognize. That many times that algorithm change doesn't have the damn thing to do with your content, the quality of the content, the markup. You are simply winning too much at the table and they need to shake the game up. Change the dealer. Understand? Reshuffle the deck because they need to make money and they want you to spend. They want you to want that money back. So ultimately, this is where backlinking comes into play because that is going to help you. Ultimately, they're going to fall back on their core algorithm strengths, which is about what's really going on with those sites, because a lot of those algorithm things that cause these massive shakeups, they really only become short term if you've got a solid backlinking strategy that's constantly in the flow. Because the real metrics that come into play, at the end of the day, the casino is still going to run. The odds are not going to change ultimately. And so if you're a good player, the more content, the more cards, the more tables that you can play simultaneously. You want to have as much as you can because, guys, when you don't know what Google's going to do next month or 3 months from now, and the stuff you're making today, more than not, is often tomorrow's results, and you can't foresee what Google's going to do. So you've got to play as many hands and as many tables as possible, and shake it up. Shake your approaches up. Now that's on an on-site basis, but ultimately, I see it every time. It doesn't matter. When you've got that solid monthly backlinking, that mechanic of updating and changing, this never fails because Google, at the end of the day, it has to function. Can't be that everybody comes into the casinos a loser. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. People, the money has to be flowing, coming and going. It's to keep the economy driving. Understand? And some of these are a little difficult concepts, but the casino content comparison is critical because you start to understand that when you look at the changes through those eyes, you often can understand why some people take a hit. It's because they're doing too good, and other people, and you see people with total crap, low rankings, all kinds of things suddenly catapulted to the top, and it doesn't seem to make sense. It makes sense because Google has to stick somebody there to take you out to see if they can encourage you to start spending. Now, that's not going to happen all the time, and most times not. But of course, they're playing the percentages because there's lots of people that they will. And they do. Otherwise, if they didn't, Google wouldn't be in business because its whole business is driven by ad revenue. And that is the game that they're playing. So, if you want to be a smart gambler, you don't give Google your money. You do your best to play your game against their overall metrics. Now, with this scenario, with automated backlinking, when you combine it with the right processes, you're always going to come back a winner because the odds overall, they may be smaller, but you're playing more tables, you're going to have more wins overall, even when they're just smaller wins. And then things are going to shift, and then you're the one that gets put in to play somebody else against trying to encourage them to pay for the backlinking. You understand? So there's a little bit of a seesaw effect that's going to be going on. But as long as you're maintaining that, you don't give up. You keep that site going. You make the changes. You do the updates. You keep your content. You shake it up. You keep that backlinking process and those other external activities pumping, and it works every time because, as I said, Google has many scoring algorithms, but there are some that are just so critically essential to their functionality and moving forward. And that makes them a fat cat hungry for newest, latest, greatest. All the rest, it's mostly subterfuge. Yes, in some cases, there's some good advice that there's things. Obviously, a fast web page is a good web page, but a long web page is going to give longer user engagement. And these are metrics they measure too. So, you always have things that are counterintuitive in that regard. And what you have to do is look at the things that work well for you and listen to things that are working well for other people that you realize that you can connect with your own processes and approaches, or why your certain aspects of what you do work so well. Sometimes just hearing something that somebody else did and they actually paid for it, but you did it for free, using automation, and you go, holy mackerel, now I get it, Now I understand, so that you see beyond. And when you start to analyze your statistics, and especially your backlinks, you really want to look. You want to look at the backlinks. You want to look at the anchor text that's involved. Okay, where that link comes from, and it'll actually, like Ahrefs will show you the anchor text. Why is it showing you that? Because that's the thread that's threading the needles from the backlink up to your blogs, your pages, your interlinking, to all the way up to what is the title of that document. Understand? Guys, that's it for this video as far as the topic goes. But let's just talk about a couple other things very briefly. Now, as it relates to GSA Website Contact, and many of you know I am now selling lists for GSA Website Contact for the contact forms. We get a lot of people in the Discord community, and they ask a lot of questions. And of course, there was a gentleman on Black Hat World, and he was well established on the forum. He's been around a while. He's selling a list of 30 million for $500 contact forms. So after a lot of talk with some of the guys, I decided I was going to have to buy it. Just check it out. So I did purchase it, and disappointingly, it is more world than USA. So, most of the people that purchase the list from me, they really prefer to get USA. And my lists are pretty much 95% USA sites. And any small percentage, that closes the gap to making the full count, they are US speaking countries, UK or Canada. Now, that being said, only about a third of his list was viable, sadly. And it's probably going to take me a month to see what can be made more viable out of that list. But, I've got 6 licenses of Scrapebox and 20 systems here. So I can, get through a lot. But it took quite a bit of time just to do some verifications of some of the million lists and run a few tests. But they're not, sites that, they won't be part of my list that I'll be selling in my list. The list that I build are for me and for the community of people that subscribe to my, for the list. And it's meant to be the latest, much like Google. Now, people ask me sometimes, well, are they new sites or the old sites? Those are not like discernible factors in the scraping process, but what they are is active sites. And what I'm attempting to do with the various approaches that I take to scraping those sites are to try to define phrases that are generating sites that are active, live, doing business, fighting for top spots on the search engines. People who are active with their SEO and come up in the search results are people that are doing business. People that are doing business, making money, are going to spend money. So that is the objective with the general list, which also makes it good for various types of affiliate marketing. But like I've said, affiliate marketing needs to be targeted. Okay? And so I just want to reiterate about the realities of affiliate marketing with GSA Website Contact, that you understand that you're not going to sell diet pills. You're not going to just sell any type of product. It's got to be something that broadly appeals to website owners, okay? That is the door you're going in. You're contacting them through your website. So it either needs to be something about website or services, or you're doing something more targeted, and that's when you're getting into doing, lists where you're going to crawl specific genres or business types on your own. Now, I have not started a B2B list yet. I'm compiling them, but I haven't made that subscription available yet. And one of the reasons I'm taking my time is because I learned a few lessons in developing the lists that I'm doing now for myself and for the community, that you want to really give yourself a little buffer time on everything and make sure that you do things the right way, that things don't go wrong. Because in my second month, I wound up having some issues, in compiling a list, because I made a foolish assumption about something because I was targeting Shopify. But it wasn't anything that I couldn't overcome a hurdle to, but I let the clock run, dangerously close. So now I like to be ahead of the curve with my list. And the thing about my lists is that they are unique month to month. You're not going to get duplicates. If you signed up 6 months ago, the list you get this month, well, I mean, it hasn't been 6 months. I think we're just crossing the 4th month. But when you get the next list, it's a new list. You don't have to worry about using Scrapebox to compare it to previous list. My objective every month is to get a fresh 1 million list. Majority is USA. There will be world lists available. I'm not really sure how I'm going to handle that right now, but we want to go, I'm going where I think the money is, and that is where the majority of people who are asking me, they want USA, and that is what I want. So that is where the focus is, at least for that right now. Now, that being said, I'm also working still on the GSA search engine ranker, and same approach. I don't want to rush into making it available, and I want to get all of my mechanics and website stuff really in line and functioning right before I just tend to kind of get all these things running and then trying to tie up the last few ends when you're already making sales. So I really don't want to make that mistake again, because I've got so many things going on here in the office. But one thing I will tell all of you, because I get a lot of questions, I assure you that my lists are the highest quality. You'll get the highest success rate for your type of affiliate marketing campaigns. That being said, the real reality of how successful it's going to be after is going to be based on the product that you're selling, how well your pitch is, what you've got waiting for them on the other end when they click that link. Is there a more elaborate lead in to things? Is there a way to get some info from them? All of those things, they really matter when it comes to taking this approach. Because using GSA, website contact, it really can be a gold mine. But you've got to be digging in the right place. Now, doing various types of affiliate marketing that you'll get lower returns, but they're viable products for this process, that's a good thing to start with, because you need to learn. Everybody that comes in that's starting out, they run into a lot of hurdles. Guys, I strongly recommend my quick start guide for the GSA, single setup video, because that kind of outlines the process. And when you join the community, of course, we're always updating. I'm going to have a new video coming out in a few days on GSA, because everything's changing. Always want to kind of keep you up to date with the latest stuff, and kind of let's go through it again from a different angle and cover some other points, because there's so many to often always talk about. That being said, the other thing I'm working on hard is getting XRumor. Now, one thing about XRumor is I feel like this is like one of the most difficult applications to run and get a handle on, and that's because almost everything in it on its documentation is in Russian. So there's a lot of translation. There's not really a lot of videos out there, and I know that a lot of Russians use that software extremely successfully. But it's kind of like, the best kept Russian secret, while the rest of us, in the English speaking world, flounder around with it. So I am working out the minutia of it, and hope to really show some really powerful ways that you can use XRumor and make this, let's bring this product back into the mainstream. One of the things that's preventing that is there's just not really any good tutorials out there that, and it is a much more complicated or complex product underneath than it appears on the surface. So, it takes a bit of, getting into to get the minutia. But we'll be crossing that bridge soon. I got some exciting stuff going on there. Now, all of that being said, guys, backlinking. Backlinking is a science that takes time. And if you guys feel that, you need a professional level backlinking and SEO services, then visit us at SEOdepot.com, because there we'll do an analysis for you on your website, what you need to do. You don't need to be an SEO expert, okay? So whether you are or you are not, if you're an SEO expert already, well, then you're going to find that our services will mesh perfectly with your approaches. But if not, we'll provide the training and insights that help get you started in advance, so you can do the right markup and start to experience the benefits of having a strategic SEO backlinking campaign and services running for you on a monthly basis, because that is what's going to really keep you in the game every week, every month, month to month, year over year with Google. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.